Energy consultant. Sounds kind of straightforward, right?
That's
Like
right.
you just tell people to use less power, right?
Well, not quite.
But after taking a look at these RoleCatcher guides, I'm realizing it's way more than just like turning off the lights. It's way more dynamic.
It really is. What's so fascinating about this career path, I think, is that it sits right at the intersection of technology, policy, and even just like human behavior.
Yeah. And plus, with everyone pushing for like wind farms and stuff,
Right.
and the government's doing those clean energy tax credits and things,
It's a very,
it's got to be a cool time to be in the field.
right. It's a really exciting time to be in the field. Absolutely.
Especially with those tax credits. Like I was reading that some areas,
Yeah.
especially I think it was coastal regions,
Yeah.
are seeing like a boom in those new projects. Have you seen that like impacting your clients at all?
Absolutely. And that's a really great example of how an energy consultant's role goes beyond just like the technical expertise. You need to be really aware of these market shifts, these policy changes, and even like local incentives to advise your clients effectively. It's about connecting the dots really between the big picture and their specific needs.
Okay, so like what does that actually mean when we say like understand entire energy systems, which is something I saw in the guide?
Yeah.
What does that mean? That sounds really high level.
It is high level, but it basically means looking beyond just, we always talk about solar, we talk about wind.
Right, those individual things.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. But it's really understanding how it all works together. So, for example, you might be advising a business on, okay, we're going to implement solar panels. Great. But then you also have to consider their grid dependency, what their peak usage times are, even the potential for, using battery storage. It's really about like optimizing their entire energy ecosystem.
Okay, I got you. And what I think is really cool about these RoleCatcher guides is they don't just say like, go be an energy consultant, which I feel like some of these career things do.
Right, yeah.
They actually like lay out, okay, here's entry level, here's junior, here's senior. They even had this quote from a senior consultant who basically convinced this company to switch to geothermal heating, and like their energy costs plummeted and they were like the model for sustainability. I was like, imagine having that kind of impact.
Oh, it's really rewarding actually to see your recommendations really lead to those like tangible results.
Yeah.
And it highlights the importance of those higher level skills too that the guide talks about, right? Like communication,
Right.
problem solving, persuasion, all that.
Well, especially persuasion, because they specifically listed that as a key skill.
Yes.
Why is that so important for this? It's not just like crunching numbers, obviously, right?
No, not at all. You are often advocating for very significant investments and changes to a company's or, whoever you're working with, their infrastructure or their operations. So think about it this way, like, convincing a company to invest in, I don't know, energy efficient upgrades, which on the surface, you're like, well, yeah, of course, everybody wants to save money. But you might encounter resistance from, certain stakeholders who see it as this costly disruption.
Right. So you got to be able to like present
Yes.
the compelling case.
Yes.
Maybe even appealing to their desire to save money long term, or even just like a greener image.
Exactly. I remember this one instance I was working with a manufacturing company and they were really hesitant to upgrade their lighting system to LEDs.
Which, again, seems so obvious.
Right.
Like lower energy use, lower costs.
You would think so.
Yeah.
But they were really like worried about that upfront investment and the fact that they would have to like halt production to even get them installed.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I had to really like break it down for them, like show them the long-term financial benefits.
Yeah.
And not just energy savings, right? We're talking reduced maintenance costs
Right.
because LEDs last longer, even potential government rebates, things like that.
Oh, interesting.
And, I even brought in some case studies of similar companies, and they had also seen a really significant ROI after switching.
Wow. So you had to really get into it, not
Yeah.
just be like, hey, this will save the planet.
Exactly. And it worked. They were actually really surprised by the projected payback period.
Right.
And then all these added benefits that they didn't even think about. So, again, it's about connecting those dots, showing them the impact.
Totally. Okay, so let's talk about these certifications then, because the guide mentions all these certifications.
Yes.
And I'm seeing CEM, CEA, LEED AP. It's like alphabet soup over here. So first of all, like, what are these? What do they even stand for? And like, which ones really matter when you're first starting out?
Yeah, it can feel kind of overwhelming when you
Okay.
see all these letters.
For sure.
So CEM, that's Certified Energy Manager. That's a good one to start with.
Okay.
It's globally recognized. It covers a really broad range of knowledge from like energy audits to like actually, analyzing those energy bills and even like, what we're just talking about, making those persuasive proposals.
Right.
And then you've got the CEA, that's a Certified Energy Auditor.
Right.
And that one's a little bit more specialized. It's more focused on actually identifying areas for improvement in buildings and systems.
So if you were really into like green building, sustainable design, that's where you'd want to go for that AP.
IAP, exactly.
What does that stand for again?
AD accredited professional.
Okay.
Yeah. So they are the ones who make sure that buildings are designed and constructed with sustainability in mind. So not just energy efficiency, but also like water conservation and things like that.
Oh, very cool.
And then you've got CSDP, Certified Sustainable Development Professional.
What?
And that one's a little bit broader. That considers like the environmental, the social, and the economic aspects of sustainability. That one's becoming more and more like important
I bet.
as companies are really focusing on their ESG goals.
Right. ESG, there's another one.
There you go. Exactly.
But it is interesting how these certifications are, like, they're changing with the times, too.
Right.
You got to stay on top of things.
Right. You really do. And that's, going back to RoleCatcher,
Yeah.
what I really, really appreciate about what they do is they're tracking, like, what are those skills? What are the certifications that employers are actually looking for?
Right.
So you're not just getting certified for the sake of it. It's very strategic.
Right, because if you're, like, a master of wind power, but everybody needs solar.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
You're out of luck.
Yeah, you're out of luck. And speaking of, like, staying ahead of the curve,
Yes.
let's talk AI.
Okay.
Because I know the guide mentioned RoleCatcher. They have these interview prep tools that actually use AI to simulate interview questions, which is kind of wild.
It's really wild.
Over 120,000 of them or something. I was like, what?
It's amazing. Yeah.
But so have you seen AI, like, aside from just interview prep, are you seeing that impact the energy consultant world in other ways?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Really?
Hugely. AI is really changing the game. And, one big example is energy modeling.
Okay.
So traditionally, we would spend hours and hours, sometimes even days,
Oh, wow.
building these really complex spreadsheets and models
Oh, my bad.
to analyze energy consumption patterns and, project future needs and things like that.
It sounds tedious.
It could be very tedious, a lot of room for error, honestly.
Right.
But now you've got these AI-powered tools that can analyze massive data sets in, like, a fraction of the time, identifying trends, generating insights that would have taken us like way, way longer to find, or we might not have even found them at all.
Right. So it's like you almost have like this like superpowered assistant doing all that number crunching while you get to do the like strategy and the client stuff.
It's like having a whole team of analysts like in your back pocket.
Wow. Okay, so they mentioned this thing, RoleCatcher Copilot.
Yes.
How is that changing things?
So imagine this. You are working on a proposal for a brand new office building, right? You've got a ton of factors to consider: the building's design, where is it located, how many people are going to be working there, what are their goals for energy usage, all of that.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. So RoleCatcher Copilot can analyze all of that data, all those factors against this massive database of similar projects, best practices. And then it suggests, okay, here are the most energy efficient technologies you should be thinking about, operational strategies, potential cost savings. It's like having this AI brainstorming partner who's seen everything,
So it's not replacing what you do. It's just making you better at it.
Exactly. It's letting us focus on the bigger picture, the strategic thinking, and of course,
the human element.
The client relationships.
Yeah, you still got to have that.
Exact.
It's almost like, they say like a human with an AI will replace the person just doing it on their own.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a great way to put it. And like, it's not about replacing, it's about like using these tools to enhance what you already do, which is probably why those interview tools, like those AI interview prep tools, are so helpful, right?
Yeah.
Because then you can like speak to all of that and show that you're like forward thinking and not scared of using this stuff.
Absolutely. That's what employers want to see, that you're not like intimidated by technology and you can adapt. But I think, as we've been saying, it always circles back to that. Like
human element.
That human element, persuasion, the communication, building that trust really with the people that you're working with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting too, because the guy talks about how like diverse the client base is for this, right? Like you could be working with
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
governments, businesses, individuals. It's not like a one-size-fits-all.
It's not at all. And that's, I think, part of what makes it so dynamic and so interesting. Like, you know, one day you might be helping a city government, you know, come up with this whole renewable energy plan. And then the next day you're at a factory, like figuring out how they can reduce their carbon footprint. So
Right. Totally different.
totally different. Every single project has its own challenges, its own rewards. So,
And within all that, I'm assuming there's like room to specialize too.
oh, absolutely. So you could focus on, you know, I don't know, renewable energy project development, or maybe you're really into energy efficiency, specifically for buildings, or like the industrial side of things with energy management.
Yeah.
You could even get into policy analysis. So,
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that.
yeah, there's so many different avenues you can go down.
That's so cool. Okay, well, we covered a lot in this deep dive.
Yeah.
For the listener out there, though, like what's the one thing that you really hope they take away from all of this about energy consulting?
I would say if you are passionate about sustainability and you really want a career where you can see the impact of your work, like you can see that you are making a difference, energy consulting is it.
Mm.
It's a field where your expertise can have such a huge impact. I mean, we're talking about the planet, we're talking about the economy, you know, it's
You're part of the solution.
part of the solution. Exactly.
You're not just clocking in and clocking out. You're like making a difference, which is awesome. And for anyone who's like, okay, I'm intrigued, I want to know more, obviously these RoleCatcher guides are like a great starting point. And I do like that they have so much information available, even if you're not like paying for the premium version or whatever.
Yeah, I agree. It's a really, really great resource, I think, for anyone. Even if you're just like considering it, I would say definitely check it out.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into energy consulting, everyone.
Yeah.
Hopefully you found it insightful and maybe even a little bit inspiring.
Yes.
And until next time, keep asking those big questions and, keep exploring.
Keep exploring. And who knows, maybe we'll have you back on the show.
Yes.
Sharing your success story.
Exactly. We'll have to have you back.